Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you haven't been here yet. My name's Kira and today I'm going to be telling you all about my labor and delivery experience. So my contractions started at 6 in the morning one day. I ended up waking up because my fiance was going to work and then I realized that I just had a terrible cramping in my back. That would usually be caused by like me sleeping on my back, being so huge and pregnant, and so usually I'd be able to just pop my back and go right back to sleep. But I realized that, okay, well the pain kept coming back and I couldn't sleep through it. So I kept feeling my stomach, trying to feel if it was as firm as most people try to describe when they talk about contractions, but I personally just couldn't tell because I was so big that I felt like my stomach was firm in general. So I went over to my mom's house and I was just like, feel my stomach, this is happening every 15 minutes, I think it's contractions, but I'm not sure. And so she felt my stomach when I was going through one and she's like, yep, those are contractions, you might want to start timing those. So I started timing them and I was getting ready and everything because I just wanted to make sure that if I do go to the hospital then I'm ready, and I had all my bags packed and everything. And as I'm getting ready, I get a call from my grandpa and he's just like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I think I'm going to labor. And he's like, want to get breakfast first? So I was like, okay, I guess we're doing that. So after that, we go over to a cafe and we start eating breakfast. I overloaded on food because I was like, if I'm going into labor, I know I'm not going to be able to eat and I'm going to regret it if I don't eat right now. So I got like this huge burger, I got fries, and I got a milkshake. Not your typical breakfast, but I just knew as soon as I had this baby, I was switching my diet completely, so I wanted to go all out. As we're eating breakfast, my contractions got 7 minutes apart. And my doctor had told me, okay, you should probably go in when your contractions are around 7 to 5 minutes apart. But I just felt like they weren't getting more intense, so I didn't really find a reason why to go. So I went back home and then I picked up my friend because I was like, okay, if I'm going into labor, I can't drive myself to the hospital. If my water breaks, I'm not driving myself. Like, that is not happening. So I picked up my friend and we went back to my house and my contractions just kept progressing. Yeah, they just kept progressing, and I live on my parents' property, and so I had called, so my fiance has anxiety, so I didn't want to call him if nothing was going on. So I called my dad and I was like, I think I'm going to labor, my friend's too scared to drive me, my fiance has anxiety, he's almost off work, I don't want to freak him out before he gets off work, so do you think you could drive me? And he's like, okay, well I have a meeting, so I'll probably be home in about an hour. And my contractions were like 5 minutes apart at that time, so I was like, okay, that's fine. So when he got to the house, my contractions were 3 minutes apart, and I was kind of freaking out because I was like, I am not giving birth in no car. Like, I really want my epidural, I want all this because these contractions hurt and I cannot imagine what it would feel like to birth a baby without medication or anything. So he comes home and they were 3 minutes apart and we start heading to the hospital, and then I call my fiance obviously and I was just like, hey, so we're headed to the hospital. I was like, don't leave work yet because he worked pretty close to the hospital, so I was like, just don't leave yet. I'll tell you when I'm there and everything. And of course he met me at the hospital. So he met me at the hospital and I go in and I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to be admitted because I had a doctor's appointment the day before I went into labor, and I was only dilated to 2 centimeters, and that took 2 weeks to get from 1 centimeter to 2 centimeters. And so I go into the hospital that day and they checked me and I was at a 2.5. So they're like, okay, well, you're progressing, but we want to make sure that you are in active labor, so just go walk around for about an hour, come back, we'll check you, and then we'll let you know if you are progressing enough to admit you. So I go walk around for an hour, and then I come back and they check me again and I was at a 3.5. So I dilated 1 centimeter in an hour. So they were like, okay, we're definitely admitting you. You can go walk more if you would like to. Just try to speed up the process, or you can go lay down. You can have a bath, whatever you want. Just do it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to walk around more, just trying to speed up the process because I really wanted to meet my daughter. So I go walk around, and of course I did a dance while I was in labor. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put the clip in here, but I danced to Baby Got Back, and yeah, it was pretty intense. So I couldn't even walk around an hour because my contractions got down to 30 seconds apart during this time. So I go back to my room and I ask if I could sit in the bath, just trying to see if that would help or anything. And I get in the bath, and I felt like I was in there for 15 minutes, but I was actually in there for maybe 5. And it was terrible for me. I know a lot of women it works, but it just pissed me off, and it made me in so much more pain. Like, I just couldn't do it. So I got out, and I just wanted to lay in bed and just try to like figure out how I can make myself more comfortable that way. So I lay in bed, and as soon as I do, the nurse comes in. She's like, okay, so do you have any plans for like help with your pain? And I was like, well, I want the epidural. And she's like, okay, do you want it now? I was like, yes. And I had no clue it was an option to do it so early, like when I wasn't dilated so much. So I was really excited about it. And my whole pregnancy, I was terrified of the epidural because a needle going in your spine doesn't sound like the best time ever. But once I was in the hospital and they asked me if I could have it, and the anesthesiologist walked in, I just was like, come here, come on. Put the needle in my spine, just get me out of this pain. So he gave me the epidural, and it honestly did not hurt. It didn't hurt. The only thing that was uncomfortable was just you could feel them, like, I don't know how to describe this without freaking people out. It just like, you feel tugging basically. And so, but it took maybe 30 seconds, and then I was completely pain-free. I was just like, I felt so good, guys. I felt so good. I would totally do it over and over and over and over and over again because of the epidural. So after that, I tried getting some rest, but of course I had to switch positions, just trying to make sure that my whole body was numb, which the nurse makes you do that. So if you're like about to give birth and didn't know about that, the nurse will let you know when to turn and everything, just making sure that you're completely numb. And then after that, I was just trying to rest, but they kept coming in and like checking me and everything, and I was progressing really well. And then they checked me again. Well, I actually slept through a lot of contractions, by the way. I had a lot of people in my room. I had, and this was just while I was going through contractions, but I had my grandpa, my mom, my dad, my fiance, and his mom in the room with me. And then people obviously came in and out just trying to check on me, like family members and friends and stuff. And so I was just napping and stuff, and then they come in and check me again and found out that Violet had pooped in me. So I had to be put on antibiotics for 2 hours before I could even start pushing, just to make sure she got them and I got them, and just to make sure there was no infections and that she would be good and everything. So I had to wait 2 whole hours without pushing, and so obviously I slept the whole time. And then they came back in, they're like, okay, well, do you want to do some practice pushes? And I was like, of course, like I just want to start getting this ball moving, you know? And my whole family I was like, if you guys feel uncomfortable being in here, then you guys can leave, but it's just practice, so like you guys can stay, I don't care. But I practiced for about an hour, and then they realized that I was doing good and everything, but I just couldn't push yet because my doctor, my OB, went out of town that day that I was in labor, and so I had to wait for a doctor on call, and the doctor on call was delivering 3 other babies at the exact same time. So I had to wait for them, so I was just practice pushing, waiting all these contractions out. My daughter could have been out so much earlier, but it just didn't work out that way. So finally a doctor comes in and she's like, okay, well, your baby's like right there and she's ready to come out, so you can start pushing now, like for real. So I did, and she just plopped right out, and it was such an amazing experience. I'm kind of upset at myself because I didn't cry, and I cry watching labor and delivery vlogs all the time, but I was just in such awe. The sound of your baby crying for the first time, the feeling of them laying on your chest, just looking at them like, wow, like you are here, I made you, like you're here. And it is just such an amazing experience. It was the most beautiful experience I have ever gone through. And I had everyone who was in there, my grandpa, fiance, mom, dad, mother-in-law, they were all in there when she came out. It was not planned at all. I was planning on just having my fiance and my parents in there. But God has different plans, I guess. So yeah, it was honestly the most amazing experience. But after that, she was doing great and everything. She was born on April 14th, 2017 at 5:36 a.m. and she was 7 pounds 4 ounces, and she dropped to 6'9" in the hospital. And then one day while we were in the hospital, I think the second day, her temperature dropped to I think like 96, and so they realized that her blood sugar was low, so I had to stay in there longer, and she had so many pricks and pokes while we were in there, and it just broke my heart, because who wants to see that? Like, you just brought this baby into the world and they're already getting all this pain and all this stuff. But it was needed, of course, and so we had to be in there for an extra 24 hours so they could monitor both of us, because my temperature rised and hers dropped. And so they just want to make sure that we were good to go home. And after that, she never had any more problems. She was perfect. It was just so great. So that's my story of my labor and delivery. I love it. I love that story. I love the experience. And I hope that if any of you soon-to-be moms were watching this just trying to have an ease of mind, or even people who aren't pregnant and just plan on having kids in the future, I hope that this just eases your mind and lets you know that birth is such a beautiful experience. I know everyone has different experiences and everything, but man, I would go through it 1,000 more times. And my pregnancy was easy too, so I guess I'm pretty biased when it comes to it. But yeah, so that was my story when it came to my labor and delivery. I hope you guys liked it, and please subscribe, like, comment. Follow me on my social medias, follow my Snapchat if you want to see my day-to-day life, if you want to see my daughter all the time, that's where to go. You can follow my Instagram for more pictures of her and my family, and I don't know, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I just retweet a lot of stuff, so go ahead and do that too. Alright, bye guys, love you.
Yeah, say to you.